Good morning, and welcome to what most people really think about when they think about marketing, the beginning of the discussion about communications, which for most people means advertising. But before we can get into advertising, sales promotion, personal selling, all the different ways that we communicate with customers, the first thing we need to think about is communications itself and the communication process. And communications is nothing more than a process, take your pick, by which we send a message to the consumer that we're hoping understands it the same way we've meant it to be. It could be a message about a new product and its features or the benefits it provides. It could be a message about an upcoming sale. It could be a message about something we're doing to try to build a brand, perhaps a new sustainable practice we've adopted. But it's a communication. It's something that we send to the consumer and hope that we've put it together properly so they understand it the same way. The first thing we need to look at is we have this form of interpersonal communication. Most of us prefer direct face-to-face communication. The one reason that I opted to give you video for this course instead of the audio that some of the other professors prefer is I find that by looking at the person when they're talking, you can learn a lot more about what they're saying because we have a need as humans to have interpersonal communication, and that requires actually seeing the person. It's not about hearing their voice. So we've got interpersonal, direct face-to-face. Now this is not direct. You're watching this on tape, or not on tape, I'm dating myself again. You're watching this as a pre-recorded video, but in a way you're still getting some of that face-to-face side. We have mass communication. That's what television, regular network television, even some of the cable stations are, or newspapers, or if you still read them, or magazines, or if somebody sends you an email blast. That's mass communication. We're communicating to a large audience of people. Okay? And we do that through a process. I'm the sender. I take my message and encode it using symbols that you're familiar with, words, pictures, video. And then I send it to you to be decoded. And when you decode it, then you understand it. Now, hopefully I've encoded it properly and you decode it the way it was meant. Now, in between, I pick a way to send it. Well, my way of sending it is I record videos and send them to you. Now, this method has a certain amount of noise attached to it because, if you've got other things you can do. So, wow, instead of listening to this Warren guy blather on, I'm just going to go look at something else on YouTube. Or I'm going to go to something else. So there's noise. You're constantly being interfered with. And a good communicator knows how to get through that noise. Okay. Well, it all starts with the receiver and the decoding. You have to, as the receiver, receive my message. You get my message. You get this video. You open this video. And then what you do is you decode what I'm saying. You take the words I'm saying and you go, okay, what does he really mean? More importantly, what's going to be on the test? Okay, that's when you're decoding, that's what you're looking for. So you take the words and you listen to them. What's he emphasizing? Okay, that's something that's probably important to me. What is he skipping over? Probably unimportant. Where's he putting more detail into it so I understand more what's going on behind it? All of that is part of the decoding process. Then you provide me with feedback. Well, the feedback you provide me is you'll send me an email typically. Some of you have come into my office and said, I'm not clear about this. Can you explain this in more detail? Well, those are great examples of feedback, and that's part of the cycle. Now, what's really changed that today for marketers is the internet and social media. Because historically, what we did as the marketer is we sent the message out towards the consumer. The consumer decoded the message, understood it, took action. If they didn't like what they heard, they may have told some friends or they may have written us a letter. But what happened was they didn't have any real direct contact with us, and it definitely wasn't in real time. So if they had a problem with our product not working, or they were unsatisfied with the quality of the product, it would take days, sometimes weeks, before we'd know it as the marketer, either a retailer or a producer. We added 800 numbers, that speeded it up a bit. But what's really made the difference is social media, because now the consumers are senders. They're not receivers who get something and then provide us feedback. They're direct senders. You can do the same thing. You can go on social media and write on Twitter, this Warren guy knows nothing about marketing, worst course I've ever taken. And that's your right. But that's much different than before, where you might post it in an area where other students could find it, or you might go by voice to voice, person to person, sorry. So now what we've got is our receivers are now senders. It's now a two-way flow of information, which we've never had before in marketing. It's always been one way and then getting feedback. The second big change is it's now personal. So when we see feedback, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, YouTube, somebody cuts a YouTube video, somebody posts something in Snapchat about us, and old school Facebook about us, it's now personal. That person is making a complaint to the company, and it's treating the company as an individual. And it's saying, look, you've done something wrong and you need to correct it. Or sometimes they say, hey, you've done something great and we want to congratulate you for it. It's not all negative. We tend to focus on the negative side of feedback though, because that's how we get better. The positives, the attaboys or attagirls, those are great, but they don't help us improve too much. It's always, what can we do better here? Or what can we do better there that we're looking to do? So now the feedback's now personal. Take a look at that Wendy's piece. I saw Wendy's today because they're known for their sarcastic responses. Chick-fil-A had posted a tweet about, where do you go for the best spicy chicken sandwich? Chick-fil-A. And Wendy's response, except on Sunday when you come to see us, because Chick-fil-A not open on Sundays. Now that's a really interesting response to another company's message. Okay. So why do we use communications as marketers? Well, one is we want to inform people. Okay? We want to tell them something's happening. There's a sale going on. There's new products coming out. We've got new features that you'd be interested in. Maybe we've got a new product line. What we're doing is anything we can to interest you as the consumer in the product and get you to come and visit us, either electronically or in hard form in a bricks and mortar location. So we're trying to inform people. We use advertising and communications, not just advertising, but all forms of communications to persuade you. We want you to buy our product, or we want you to come to our store and do something. Okay? We want you to take a specific action. So we're trying to persuade you to do that. We do that all the time in marketing. Come down, big sale at XYZ retailer. New products announced. Or come and see the new blank, blank, blank models at this location. Well, now you're getting a twofer. Now you're getting one marketer, the manufacturer, say, hey, come see the new models. The second one is telling you where to see them. So you're getting two actions at once. See the new models and the location. We remind people. A lot of advertising and a lot of communications back to consumers has to do with reminding them. Where you see that is in consumer goods like Coca-Cola. A lot of what they do is remind you about the good times you had with Coke. They're trying to reinforce that brand image. Okay? Remind you of the positives you've had with that particular product. Do you remember? Oh, Pine Sol used to do this a lot. They were big into the reminder of the smell of Pine Sol, the cleaner, was formulated in such a way to remind you of going to your grandparents' house. Now they've changed the formulation because when I was growing up, the scent of pine meant clean. Today it's more of a citrusy scent. But if you smell pine, you go, oh man, this place has just been cleaned. Okay, and the last reason we do communications is we want to connect with customers. Remember back in the CRM chapter, we talked about, finding that top 20% customer group and then finding new customers to go into that. Well, one of the ways we accomplish both of those goals is by communicating with customers and connecting with them. We want to create some sort of bond between us. The bond could be a shared experience. Okay, that gets you back into the reminder side. It could be that we're connecting based upon some sort of shared goal as well. When we use pink during the month of October for breast cancer awareness, that's a good a connection that we're using. We all care about that. It could be something if we co-sponsor an event on environmental issues because the company wants to connect with customers that are concerned about environmental issues, or sports teams, or whatever. We're trying to connect. We're always looking for ways to improve our relationship with consumers. So those are the goals of communication. Now let's get into the promotion mix. Okay. I've used communication and advertising interchangeably. That's really incorrect, but it tends to be the way most people, especially who are non-marketers, think about it. So if you think about the mix of tools we have, advertising is only one of those tools. And advertising is defined, just so you know, advertising has a very specific definition. It's impersonal, which means we're not doing it face-to-face. It's kind of broadcast out in one way, shape, or form. It's paid, so the company pays for it. And the company's name has to be identified. So advertising has to be impersonal, paid, and the company identified. Well, you see that every day. You see a billboard, that's advertising. You see the sign on the side of a bus, advertising. You see a TV commercial, advertising. Radio ad, advertising. Banner ad online, advertising. Okay? Anytime the company's paying for it, it's broadcast out, and it is they're communicating a message, they're identifying their name, it's advertising. Okay? The second type that kind of falls into that is called public relations. Now, public relations are a bit different than advertising. They're still impersonal. They're still identifying the company, but they're not paid for. That's the big difference. So when you see a reporter doing a story on a company, good or bad, that's public relations. Okay? When you see a company going out and working on something like a Habitat for Humanity build, that's public relations. When they make a statement on something of importance in the community, that's public relations. The downside of public relations is that the company itself sometimes doesn't get to control the message. So the message may not be clear. Here we've got a problem with the encoding and the decoding. Okay? So companies love using that method because it gives them far more credibility than the advertising, because now it's unpaid. That's a difference. Unpaid means the company doesn't have as much control, which means to consumers, they might be getting a more truthful answer, especially the Gen X and later, because Gen X was the first generation that really said, no, we don't trust advertisers, we know you lie all the time. So we've seen a shift from traditional advertising to more public relations oriented. Not a big shift, we still do a lot of advertising. Publicity is a small form of that. So publicity, if we run a publicity stunt, we bring in a local celebrity to do a ribbon cutting for us. Well, that's publicity. We're trying to get media coverage, and we're trying not to pay for it. Now, sometimes the media covers it well, sometimes they don't, okay? So we have to take a look at it. You also have to consider bad publicity. If you do something wrong as the company, what does that do, and how quickly do you recover? But that's for an integrated marketing communication class. The next type of communication we use are sales promotions. Now, you've all seen that. You've all seen these, okay? You go into the store and they've got a big sign up encouraging you to purchase a product, or they're giving samples away, or they're giving buy this bottle and get a rebate on it. Okay, those are all examples of sales promotions. Okay, it's not advertising, it's not personal selling, it's not public relations, it's anything else that we can do to stimulate consumers to do something. Okay, now the good news with promotions is we also use them on the B2B side as well. So you'll find business to business promotions, usually for some sort of sales contest they'll run with a prize. Maybe it's a trip, maybe it's just a hat or a jacket, but there's something there, okay? Sometimes we do it with employees if we want them to sell more. If you've ever seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, they run a sales promotion in terms of a sales contest where first prize, new Cadillac, second prize, set of steak knives, third prize, you're fired, okay? Those are all good examples of sales promotions. And last but not least is personal selling. Okay, personal selling is personal. Now we're up to face-to-face. And it's paid for. And the company's identified. Okay? It's important to us today in marketing, especially because of the role of CRM. CRM at some point requires a person-to-person interaction. And the higher the customer gets up in that chain, the more personal time you want to spend with them that reflects the value they represent to you as the company. Okay? The win-win of this is relationship selling. In relationship selling, which is the goal of CRM, what you get into is that the company and the seller and the buyer meld. So they're like this, they're like a chain. And they're constantly sharing information between each other so that the buyer is getting the best possible product for their dollar, and the seller, us, the marketer, are learning as much as we can to deliver the best possible product at the lowest possible price. Okay, that's it for video 1. I've given you a couple of videos to look at on communications. Take a look at those, and when you come back, we'll talk about the communications mix and promotions. So I'll see you in a few minutes.